Inspirational group, and today we're going to be doing a forum on health and wellness, and I do thank you so much for coming out tonight. We have two wonderful guests who are going to be joining us, and they are here to share their level of knowledge and give us information about different ways that we can help and improve our awareness to make a better living for ourselves. So one of our guest speakers today, who I have a personal relationship with, is Lisa Robinson. She's actually my nutritionist, has done a fabulous job with just motivating us to eat healthy and try to find different ways to kind of really think about how we want to really start living healthier lives and making healthier decisions. She's going to highlight quick and affordable healthy meal ideas, meal planning to help your budget, and also she's going to do a demonstration today to let us know what are some ways that we can eat healthy but things still taste good as well. Also, we have another guest speaker who's going to be joining us as well. That's Scott Tadino. He's also an acupuncturist, and he's going to introduce and examine the unique and salient features of acupuncture. He's going to examine the creation of treatment plans for both acute and chronic conditions. He's going to present guidelines for answering questions of treatment frequencies and durations, explore two major women health concerns in greater depth, and regulating the menstrual cycle in female infertility. I'd like to give a round of applause for Lisa Robinson, who is going to present what this is all about.
Thanks everyone, good to be back. I was here last year, and that was wonderful, and hope everyone had a good year. We spoke about the pillars of healthy eating last year. And for those who weren't here, I'm a nutritionist over at Children's Hospital, and I work, split my time between Children's Pediatric Weight Management Clinic and working with adults in research. And that's how I know Candace talking about a low glycemic. So, you know, when we say it's expensive, again, sometimes healthier eating is expensive, but sometimes it's not. And, you know, again, hopefully you'll take away some tips tonight to just see that you can definitely save money. Our foods that we're eating at home have gone down, and they meet in the middle at about 50%. So half the time we're eating foods in general. Most of us are eating foods that someone else is preparing, and half the time it's something we are still preparing it at home. And we know that you know, what ends up happening is we spend more money when we're eating out, and we're usually getting more, you know, calories and fat and added sugar when we're eating out. And a lot of times a splurge is just always a fun exercise to look at. So easy sometimes to not have enough time, you know, to grab breakfast before work. And even if you're going to Dunkin' Donuts and choosing the healthiest option that they have, which is the flat egg white flat bread, that ends up being about like pretty low in calories, 250 calories. It still ends up being about $4. Usually you're having a coffee with that, so you're having a $6 breakfast. Now, if you were to eat a similar breakfast at home, you know, with these egg muffin tins, has anyone made things like that at home before? Yeah. They're, did you say yes?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
I have the recipe though.
These are great. They're like little protein bombs, where you basically are scrambling eggs and you throw vegetables and some cheese in there. You bake them. Takes about 30 minutes, and then you've got your breakfast for the week. And 2 of these egg muffins with some clementines and your coffee made from home, you'll get 6 breakfasts out of it, and it's for about $2 a day. And lunch is another example where it's so easy to you know, want to just buy lunch out. And there's so many Bolocos and Chipotles around the corner that it's very easy to just grab a wrap. And even the healthiest wrap out there is it still ends up being about 850 calories. I took the guacamole out of there, which is a wonderful fat to eat, but I just wanted to not feel like I was trying to trick you and say, oh, it's so many calories, you know, so I try to make it sort of as minimal as possible. And that ends up being, you know, almost $7, and that's without buying any drinks. So if you were to make something like that at home, you know, you buy the whole wheat tortilla, get a can of black beans, some salsa. I love plain Greek yogurt because you can turn that into a sweet or a savory snack. It's a better option or a great option to substitute for sour cream. That, some onions, green peppers, whatever you like. And even just doing a half of an avocado and rolling that up and then having some greens on the side, that ends up being, depending, around $4.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so what I'm gonna make is like a cold grain salad that can last you through the week. I made it last week to prep for today, and it was delicious. I looked forward to my lunch every day, and that's a nice little perk in the middle of your workday. So I earlier today cooked some farro, and farro is a whole grain. It's an ancient grain, and those are very trendy right now. So quinoa is an example of an ancient grain. Quinoa is great. It's high in protein, but it can be expensive, and so farro is a nice alternative. And I will say it can be slow cooking, but Trader Joe's I found these bags at Trader Joe's. It's $1.79 and makes all of this. Wow. And it cooks for 10 minutes. It's the most amazing thing ever. And you can sort of see that it's pretty big and chewy. So it's like very satisfying. It takes you a little while to cook.
How do you spell that?
Farro.
Thank you.
Yeah, and at Trader Joe's also, they have, if you're getting sick of farro, they have barley, which is also another great whole grain. Yeah, and again, this one's 10 minutes, so they've pre-cooked it a little bit, that's fine. And so then you're only spending 10 minutes on it. Because otherwise, yeah, these would take like 15 minutes, which is great if you're hanging around. But again, sometimes we just don't have a lot of time. So the other ingredient are white kidney beans or cannellini beans. And again, this recipe can be any sort of bean that you like. This, usually they're 69 cents, no more than $1 a can of beans. If you wanna, you can even get a whole bag and make, slow cook yourself. Sometimes people get concerned about sodium in canned beans, and a way to reduce it is to rinse them off. You get about 1/3 of the sodium off the beans that way. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take all these vegetables, they're already pre-washed by Candace, chop them up, throw them in there, toss the beans, toss a little dressing, and we'll be good to go.
To try it.
Yeah. And I hope it's good. So scallions are the first thing I'm doing here. You could do onions, you could do some red onion as well. Again, what's so great about saving money and cooking well is you can interchange it. So scallions are, not on sale. Go for red onion or something like that. So we're gonna do. You can make a mess. Things just go everywhere. We've got our pepper. As you want. Avocado is so great. It's a heart healthy fat, so we say go for it. Again, people will say, oh, you can only eat like 1/8 of an avocado as a serving. We've sort of tossed that out the window. Yes, it's high in calories, but we very much are like, fat is good. It's satisfying. It holds you over. And if maybe you're filling up an avocado, you're less likely to fill up on other stuff with added sugar or other types of fat. So what I just did is I cut this in half, and with the pit, if you want to get it out, you just stick your knife in there and twist it. I'm going to add this on the end. So it does brown, so this is something that, what I do is I cut it ahead of time, and then I wrap it up and bring it for my lunch rather than putting it in the salad, because then it's just not going to look as delicious. If you had tomatoes, this would also be another good thing to add to it. Do you need any more?
And I'm going to actually welcome our next guest speaker, Scott Gugino. And he's going to talk about acupuncture and women's health. So please help me give a round of applause to Scott.
So what I wanted to do is do a brief introduction to acupuncture and women's health. So we have a 2,000-year tradition of acupuncture and oriental medicine. So I'm going to try and encompass that in 20 minutes. I want to do a brief introduction, talk a little bit about what acupuncture is. I think there's a lot of popular conception about what acupuncture is, because you see it on television and you see it in the newspaper, but we really don't have a very good or very accurate cultural idea of what it is in this country. I wanted to talk about the practice of acupuncture because one of the big questions is, well, how many treatments am I going to need? How much is it going to cost? Because it's an out-of-pocket expense. There's no third party in this state that's mandated to cover acupuncture, so you can't have your insurance pay for it. Some insurances will reimburse, but it's not like going to see your primary care or going to see a specialist where you pay a copay. So it's an out-of-pocket expense, and that expense can vary greatly. So big questions of how many treatments am I going to need? How long is it going to take? How long is it going to take to see a result? And then I wanted to talk a little bit about women's health. Two things in particular. One, the regulation of the menstrual cycle, and two, infertility. Both big topics in women's health. And a quick conclusion. So we're going to jump right in. I'd really like to start with this quote because it says so much about acupuncture. Chinese medicine is a coherent and independent system of thought and practice. So big take homes here. Coherent, independent system of thought and practice. It's been in continuous development for over 2 millennia. So we have 2,000 years of continuous practice. It's based on ancient texts and is a result of a continuous process of critical thinking, as well as extensive clinical observation and testing. Key point, it has developed its own perception of health and illness. So the biomedical approach, the standard traditional Western medicine, very amazing. I'm so a fan of Western medicine. But the lens through which Western medicine understands health and the lens through which Oriental medicine / acupuncture understands health are different. They've developed independently from one another. So the question arises, what is acupuncture? Put quite simply, it's an individual, holistic approach to medicine. It's based on the individual person. So everybody here might have a headache, right? And we go to CVS and we all get Advil and ooh, our headache's gone, right? We've all taken the same thing. Then the 8 or 9 of us who are here all have a headache. We would all get different acupuncture treatments because it's an individualized approach to medicine. And it's holistic, so I have to look at the entire person. I can't just look at a compartmentalized understanding. I can't just look at, quote, your head if you have a headache, for instance. It's a harmonizing, normalizing, homeostatic approach. So what does that mean broken down? I'm trying to maximize, or when we do acupuncture, we're trying to maximize the inherent healing capacity of the body. You cut your hand, you cut your arm, you have a bruise, you don't do anything, but the body heals on its own. So this force, this inherent capacity for us to heal and be healthy, this is what acupuncture works with. This is what acupuncture maximizes. So it's harmonizing, normalizing, and homeostatic. I worked with this neurosurgeon once who had actually come for treatment, and we're talking about it, and he's saying how it's a normalizing medicine. I said, that's exactly what it is. It normalizes your body function. So it's functional rather than structural. So the Western approach is very much interested in structure. What's wrong with this organ? What's wrong with this blood vessel? What's wrong with this bone in relationship to this muscle? Oriental medicine and acupuncture is much more interested in function, as in what are the functional relationships of these organ systems. It addresses the underlying cause of disease rather than the symptomatic expression. Again, back to the idea of headache. I'm much more interested in what's causing the headache than the symptomatic manifestation of the headache itself. What's the underlying cause? Why does this person have a headache versus the pain in their head? They're very, very different things. It utilizes a therapeutic stimulation and activation of specific areas of the body to produce a clinical effect. So what do I mean by that? The quote, acupuncture point. They're very, very, very specific locations on the surface of the body. We're talking millimeters of difference. And the activation of the specific area will produce an effect versus if you're off that area, for whatever reason, it won't produce a clinical effect. So we utilize these different locations on the body. And I think it's important, for a careful analysis of the cycle onset, the rhythm, the duration, the amount of bleeding, the color, the density of the blood, the clotting fact, if there are clots or not, and any type of odor. This all tells us a lot about what's happening with the body. And of course, if someone using an IUD or a contraceptive pill, that changes the entire picture. And then let's talk quickly about infertility. I think the definition of infertility is very important. From a Western standpoint, people say, oh, well, I'm 33 years old and I've tried for 3 months. I have infertility. From an Oriental medical standpoint, it's the inability to produce offspring after trying for 2 years. 2 years. There's a quote, normal sex life. I put normal in quotes. It's not my job to define what a normal sex life is. if that's even applicable because of reproductive technologies today, and then that their partner or donor or whatever the case is has a normal reproductive function. So if those three things have been met, then a person would qualify for infertility diagnosis from an Oriental medical standpoint. And then we look at things like constitutional weakness. How strong is their constitution? Are they overworked? Is there excessive physical activity? Oftentimes, excessive sexual activity in early age can cause infertility. And an invasion of cold, this is the Oriental medical concept, this invasion of cold, and of course the incredible importance of their diet. And here I'm just trying to point out that we treat infertility based on phases of the menstrual cycle. So what's happening during the month, and the treatment will vary based on how a woman's cycle is presented.
Excuse me.
Yes?
Invasion of cold, do you mean like the common cold or
No.
like a cold?
No. Cold. That's exactly what I mean. So just what you did is cold. That's what we're talking about. So it's an Oriental medical concept that, I've got in 2 minutes, Oriental medical concept that this, you can have an external invasion of a environmental factor. So someone can have a quote invasion of cold or an invasion of heat, and we treat those differently. So here's an example. It's in the middle of July. I was just outside. I'm sweating, or because you're sweating, and you have your back exposed. You come inside. You sit down, and the air conditioner is beaming down on your back. You have this cold that seeps deep into your body. That's an invasion of cold. Or someone who, we have talked about invasion of damp, right? Someone who's working all day outside. So this is a lot, not me, but we see this a lot in China where people work in rice paddies and they're up to their knees all day in water. You have a quote invasion of damp. And it manifests particularly in the body. So you treat based on the different aspects of the cycle. So the regulation of the menstrual cycle is so important. If a person has an irregular menstrual cycle or menstrual irregularities, it's very difficult to conceive. So the first part is the regulation of this cycle. And then finally, a powerful tool for women's health. I think it can, acupuncture can work both as a standalone treatment, which oftentimes it does, or as a vital component to an overall health strategy. Okay. I know that was a ton of information, but I really wanted to, condense, as I said, thousands of years into 20 minutes. If there are any questions, please feel free to contact me. I know people talk about, they don't want to talk about their health in a group setting, but if anybody has any questions, I'm concerned that this is for the gentleman as well, feel free to contact me. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.